First story. She hurt me so badly. Why do I still miss her? My 24M ex-girlfriend, 23F, and I dated for 4.5 years. We have lived together for 1 year. From my perspective, the relationship had never been better. We had discussed marriage many times and proposal was incoming this year. We were busy with grad school, but always made time for each other and went on weekly dates. She never said anything was wrong bothering her until one day she told me her TA, 30M, AP expressed interest in her and she was interested in him. She said they decided to just be friends, but I quickly learned that wasn't the case. For about a month and a half I did the pick me dance. She said she wanted to go on more dates, wished I cooked more, and thought my attitude had been bad this year. I was grieving the traumatic death of my brother and overworked with school, working 3 jobs and taking full course load. She said she'd been unhappy since last summer, which does not make sense to me since in between then and now we did so much together and had a ton of fun. This was especially confusing since days before she was saying how much she wanted to get married and tried to convince me to elope. She was the one who pursued me, escalated the relationship, and frequently talked about marriage. After she told me all this, I was in shock and did whatever I could to improve my behavior. I cooked more, planned more romantic dates, tried to be more spontaneous, started therapy, and changed my pessimistic attitude around. She had never once said anything was wrong, so I really listened to her and worked on myself when she brought up issues. I see now that she blamed me for all her problems, made mountains of molehills, and refused to take responsibility herself. I quickly learned nothing I was doing mattered. She kept hanging out with AP and would lie to me about how much she was seeing him and the content of their relationship. Even though I thought we were working on our problems, I had a gut feeling things were wrong. She was becoming distant, hardly texting me, not enjoying herself on dates, became weird about planning any future activities, not putting an effort into conversations, and stopped all intimacy. She became weird about her phone, moving away from me to text and always bringing it with her. She stopped calling me pet names and saying I love you. The only time she'd say it was before she went to see AP. I decided to check her phone and found messages between her and AP saying I love you, planning dates, and him encouraging her to leave me and live with him. I also saw her complaining about me to AP. No matter what I did, it wasn't enough. I was, unknowingly, being placed into a competition with him. Every time I did something she didn't like, instead of talking to me she'd complain to AP and he'd make me out to be a horrible person. She was villainizing me and making me out to be a horrible person. I was so shocked but still committed to working on things. I didn't confront her about the texts but initiated a conversation about honesty and said I felt she was cheating. She said nothing physical, but likely an EA. During this time, she was choosing between me and AP. I don't know why I let this go on. Looking back I feel ashamed I gave her time to pick between us. She'd say things about how like they are, but then she'd say how much she loved me and that she couldn't imagine her life without me. She'd give me false hope and I trusted her. I trusted she'd come to her senses. We had planned our lives together and had been discussing marriage for years with the intent of trying the knot in the next year or so. This period was pure emotional hell. She could see how distressed I was but didn't seem to care. In fact, my emotional strife seemed to annoy her more than anything. A few weeks after this, about a month ago, she said this isn't working and broke up with me. She left that night to stay with AP, while I was sobbing on the couch asking her to stay. For a few days she'd come back in the morning and hang around our apartment for a while. I couldn't handle seeing her and left town for a week. Before I left, I desperately asked her to really think if she wanted to break up. To essentially think of that week as a break. Before leaving, I looked at her phone again and saw that her and AP were referring to themselves as a couple. Saw explicit messages, and ones of her mocking me to her friends, further villainizing me. She had gone as far to say to AP I made her feel unsafe during the breakup and was yelling, when in actuality I was curled up, crying on the couch and quietly asking her not to leave that night. After seeing this, I knew things were done for good and for the best. I realized her perception of reality was either completely skewed or she was just a compulsive liar. When I came back, we had a conversation and she was still firm in her decision. I cringe looking back, particularly that I said things along the lines of I think we'll find our way back to each other, etc. After she said this, I asked her to move out and she agreed. While she was moving out, I hardly spoke to her except about logistics. By this point I had found this subreddit and learned about the Grey Rock method. I no longer let her see how much I was hurting. She's now fully moved out, gave me her keys, and is living with AP, very close to our current apartment. I have fluctuated between depression and anger for weeks. I lost about 20 pounds from the stress and not being able to eat. I have told my friends and family, prioritizing spending time with them and doing things that make me happy. I have continued therapy and journal. I redecorated and moved all reminders of her out of sight. I should have seen this coming. Early in our relationship she told me she had cheated on all her past partners. She's never been single for more than a few months. She also has unmedicated bipolar and the times she has been manic coincide with when she cheated. I have reason to believe she was manic during all or a portion of her affair. She is also emotionally immature. She'd stonewall me when I'd bring up an issue, turn it around on me, and make it my problem. I was always there for her, even during her worst, but when I was going through the hardest portion of my life she discarded me. I looked past so many red flags because I loved her so much. At moments, I am so enraged by her. She gets to live out of fantasy, move into a nicer apartment where she doesn't have to pay rent, doesn't have to pay movers, and gets to go on all these fun adventures. Meanwhile, I have to move out of my current place and find a new lease in a very competitive real estate market. Deal with my landlord showing the apartment, pay movers, do the repairs in our current place, and I have fallen behind on my work rad program. I am also so depressed, feel hideous, and like half a person. She gets to have fun meanwhile I am gutted. I now see that, even if she came back, I wouldn't want her back. I see how horrible what she did was, and that she has absolutely no remorse in throwing away me and our relationship. She said some truly nasty things to me after D-Day and her behavior was awful. She made me feel like I was a burden. When I tried to change, she said I was being malicious and manipulative. There was never any winning. I see all the horrible things she did. I see how badly she hurt me and see her true colors. But I still can't stop crying. It's been a full month now and, even though at times I'm angry and almost excited about my new future, most days I feel lethargic and drained. I cry for hours and just wish she'd come back. I miss her and our relationship so much and would do anything to go back in time. I don't know how to knock this thinking out of my mind. She didn't even want to work on our relationship and clearly doesn't care about me as much as I had thought. Why do I want the person who hurt me? Why can't I just get on with my life? I'm not sure how to cope with being left for someone else. Any advice would be appreciated. Update. I'm so mad at you. I'm so angry with you. Not only did you cheat with someone you just met, who you now allegedly love, leave me out of the blue after almost 5 years together and so many talks of marriage, never once brought up things which were bothering you, and said so many horrendous things to me before you broke up with me. But you left me alone in the most competitive real estate market in the country. I could have stayed in our current place. I could have found a roommate to fill the spare room, but I couldn't bear to keep living here. Every scratch or chip, every scuff on the wall, I'd think of you. You'd haunt me even more than you already do. I hate you. I loved our place and what we built here. I loved us. Our lease is up at the end of the month. I just got denied from a new lease. I'm panicking. I feel so trapped and alone. I'm so angry that you just discarded me and left me to fend for myself. Did you ever care? You get to move in with your affair partner and have a grand time not paying rent. But me, I'm going to end up paying over my budget and have to leave the life behind I built, the neighborhood I love. I'm so in shock that you could just throw me away like this. Everything is so easy for you, meanwhile I'm drowning. You dropped all your responsibilities and threw them to me. Do you have any remorse, any regret at all? I cry every day about the uncertainty of my future and the collapse of my life as I knew it. I love you so much, but everything I thought you were was a lie, an illusion. You're so selfish and callous, you only care about yourself. You used me for years because you knew I was hopelessly devoted to you. I was just a body for you, something to fill the void. Meanwhile, I would have taken a bullet for you. I rearranged my future, my entire life to accommodate you. But the second something bright and shiny appeared, you jumped ship. You truly broke me. Congratulations. Fuck you. Second story. Moving forward together, no judgment needed, and not looking to divorce. My wife, 28F, and I, 29M, have been married for some years now, but recently things have hit a pretty rocky place. A few years ago, my wife and I both had incidents where we each entered into conversations with co-workers that reached a level of inappropriateness. When we both spoke to each other about what happened, we were very open, and neither of us had gone beyond texting, not sexting, our co-workers. When we realized where the conversations were headed, we both did not pursue it further. We worked hard to move past this because we love each other and knew that we could work through it. We made a decision to work at being better partners in our relationship, trying to understand each other's needs and why it happened. Things have not been perfect, or I wouldn't be on this subreddit asking for advice. We hit a rough patch in the end of last year, beginning of this year, and I made a few bad choices. I was unhappy, and I felt like my wife didn't desire me physically. When I would attempt to initiate sex, she wouldn't respond and would shut me down. Eventually, I'd reach a point where I would get sexually frustrated enough to take care of it myself. This unfortunately would leave me with less desire to initiate sex with my wife, and she felt that I did not desire her physically either. This led to arguments, and things did not seem to improve. Here's where I made some dumb mistakes. I ended up spending a lot of money on which led to me usually avoiding talking about finances with my wife. My wife constantly wanted to talk about our finances, which I ignored, and it eventually got to the point where my wife could no longer avoid going over our finances. She had me sit down and list all the charges in my account so as to know where our money was going. By the point my wife did this, I was no longer spending money on and I'd taken steps to keep myself from doing so. I'd taken steps to also improve my wife's and my physical relationship, so we were having more intimacy little by little. After this, my wife forgave me, and over a few months she no longer brought up the issue. Just recently, my wife told me she needed to talk to me about something that was really bad. She came clean that during the rough patch we had earlier this year, she engaged in a few bouts of sexting with the aforementioned co-worker that had been an issue in our marriage before. These sexting sessions included nude pictures from both her and her old co-worker. They no longer work together and live in different states. She told me that this had been weighing on her since it happened, and she could no longer keep it from me. I asked her how long it went on, if it still went on, and if she loved him. She told me it only took place on 3 occasions during the most recent rough patch we went through. That it did not happen in the first issue that we went through, and that she did not love him. She stated that he initiated the conversations, and she felt bad for engaging in the conversations after they took place. I asked her if she ever masturbated to his pictures, and she said she had. She told me that she understood if I asked her to move out for me to have space, and she said she understood if I wanted to get divorced. I asked her if that was what she wanted, and she said she did not want to get divorced, and I meant more to her than anything else. Since this has taken place, I have set some boundaries for us to move forward and try to make it work. I told her I was no longer comfortable with their friendship, and she needed to let him know that I no longer wanted them to communicate. However, I told her that I didn't want this to come from me, but from her, in the sense that she needed him to know that she no longer wanted the communication, or else it would mean to me that she still wanted him in her life. I also told her that she needed to tell him to come clean to his wife, or that she should tell his wife if he refused, because it would be unfair to her. Once he responded that he had informed his wife and that he understood that they could no longer have communication. They unfollowed each other on social media. I asked my wife to take it a step further and block him on every platform possible, as well as his number. I've also made it clear that if any future communication were to take place between them beyond her telling him to leave her alone in the event he found a way to reach out to her, I could no longer see a way to make it work between us. I know I'm not blameless in this relationship, but what hurt the most is that she did this with someone who had already been part of an issue in our relationship. Someone I'd met on several occasions, and it wasn't just some random guy. As the title says, I've made the decision to reconcile. I want to forgive her and move past it, as she did me when I made mistakes. However, I find it hard not to think about it constantly. Any advice would be appreciated. Update. A month ago, I made a post about how my wife informed me of an affair that took place between my wife and an ex-coworker through sexually inappropriate texting. Some of those who commented on my post wanted an update when it was available, and I have a small update. Since I last made this post, my wife and I have not yet started marriage counseling, but we have gotten better at communicating with each other. We have also both improved at making time for each other, showing each other affection, and making decisions together to constantly improve our marriage. Marriage counseling is still something we both feel we need, we just can't afford it at this moment. Another bit of news, I finally reached out to the OBS of my wife's AP. My wife and I sat down, and we crafted a message together to provide the OBS with as much information as we could provide, and I sent the message via Facebook Messenger. This was a few days ago, and I was constantly checking to see if she had seen the message. I was beginning to suspect she wouldn't see it when today she replied to my message thanking me for telling her. When I first sent my message, I realized I had left out some information that my wife informed me to include. I had forgotten to include the timeline where my wife's AP had begun to pursue my wife, before she finally reciprocated months after his advances. The OBS told me that she was only aware of an incident between AP and another woman in July 2023. This surprised me, as my wife's timeline didn't include this incident. I made a mental note to tell my wife so see if she could inform me of this incident, as this would have been something else to consider. The OBS informed me that she had no idea that AP's behavior had been going on for so long, and that it was still an issue. We, OBS and I, apologized to each other as we both felt empathy for each other and the situation that took place. I told OBS to reach out if she had any further questions or if there was anything I could help with. After all of this, I approached my wife and told her of what I was told by OBS and about the incident from July 2023. My wife told me that this incident was not her, though I'm not sure if she understood what I was asking, because when I mentioned July, she said it was her. I then asked to confirm that she had been that incident, as she had not informed me of that before. She then said she misunderstood what I said and that the July 2023 incident was not her. I'm planning on double-checking later, as I can't move forward unless her answers are truthful and consistent. Once again, thank you for all of your opinions and support. Third story. I, 28M, am really bad at reading between the lines, and I don't know if she is telling me to ask her, 28F, out. Can you help with this? Hi, we are both 28 years old. So, she was asking me if I had seen a movie, to which I said no, and she was like, me neither. I was gonna go on Wednesday, but one of my friends can't go and we can't hang out if we aren't going the three of us. I was like, shoot, had you already bought the tickets? And she said no. Wednesdays are the best days our schedules match, and they are removing the movie next week from all cinemas. Should I ask her out? She knows I like her. I am not sure if she likes me back, so I really don't know if she is telling me, come on dude, ask me out. How could I ask her out, in case she is indirectly asking me to do it? Update. Current WP going through several limerence and seeking for urgent help. I've been with my girlfriend Anne for over 5 years and I really love her, and despite the time, I never got bored of her like in my previous relationships. Damn. We don't even fight over anything. Relationship really is that good for us. I know what you're thinking. If you really loved her, you wouldn't even be considering cheating. We are in our early 30s. Me and my actual partner get along really well. Basically like a forever slumber party. It's just that we don't live together, but we have plans for a life together. Even considered having kids and getting married with her. 2 years ago I met someone at work, Vicky, and I felt something I had never felt before. She really moved me really good and it was super noticeable that I liked her. Even my co-workers picked on me because I have a girlfriend. And I liked Vicky so much I was considering leaving my girlfriend to be with Vicky. My issue, Vicky was probably not into me, but I loved fantasizing about her telling me that she was. I was living in a dream world. I was idealizing Vicky. We are still great friends, by the way. She got fired that same year and I cried like a high school kid. I kept talking to her and eventually the infatuation faded. I write and make music sometimes, and I remember writing a song about my fear of the infatuation going away someday. I remember looking at Vicky's pictures on social media and thinking, damn, this is the most gorgeous woman I've ever seen. I wish she told me she likes me. I couldn't stop thinking about her. Damn, I even talked about her when I was with my girl. Pretty dick move. Anne was starting to feel something off and I stopped talking about Vicky entirely. I never cheated and me and Vicky were never actually involved in anything romantic. Like I said, the limerence died out of the blue. One day I woke up and she wasn't in my mind anymore like before. I look at her pictures now and think, meh, she's 8, but what was I thinking? Poor Anne. Why would I do this to her? It was so random. I literally felt bewitched. Like some kind of dark witchcraft that made me like this girl instantly. It was so involuntary. Today, so, guys, it's happening again. This time with my elementary school crush, Leah. What the hell? Not again. We had 2 dates after elementary school after I told her I liked her. I guess the dates didn't work. Because she kept asking me out and I kept coming up with the most dumb excuses to not see her again. I am wondering why I did this if she was my first love. Years went by and I was talking to a friend whose first love was actually named Leah too. A different one, by the way, and I told him my Leah was my first love too. We had 2 dates, but I found out I didn't like her anymore and there wasn't any chemistry. We regained contact a couple of months ago and found out we have way more stuff in common now. Not too many, but I am idealizing her. Suddenly I think I like her. Again, I can't explain it. The day I felt something in my stomach and chest when I saw she replied to one of my random messages, I knew I was fucked. I swear this is involuntary. I am willing to sacrifice all my years with Anne to be with Leah instead. I am seeing my future, life, kids, and getting married with her. Damn, I would elope and leave everything behind. I feel like I've been bewitched again, but this time there was something between us and we've been knowing each other for over 20 years. I am living in my own fantasy world thinking one day she will tell me she likes me too. I love having those stupid thoughts. I love the thrill. I love the chase. I am madly in love with Leah. And I didn't realize until it was too late. What happened? Just like with my previous infatuation, I don't want to stop liking her. I became obsessed and scared of stop feeling like this about her. It feels so good talking to her even if it takes several hours for her to reply back. I know she might not be into me, but I'm willing to try and go slow on her so perhaps I'll have a chance with the girl of my dreams, my first love this time. I really think she is the one. I hadn't felt that before. What the hell is happening to me? How come I don't care about Ann? Why do I feel so empty and cold when thinking about her? This is not me. I am not this cold. I've read that these kinds of random hyperfixations are ADHD OCD traits, which I have, but I need help. I would love to are with Ann, because she knows something's up, but my feelings for her are away at the moment.